as we get started, folks are wandering in, I'll go ahead and just introduce myself. I'm Jessica. I'm a lead writer at American Marriage Ministries. This is our first ever AMM Talks, which will be an ongoing project. The goal is to invite experienced officiants from around the country, AMM ministers from around the country, to share information, share ideas, share knowledge, and give other officiants a chance to network with each other, and newer officiants a chance to kind of ask questions and learn what it takes to be a professional wedding officiant. And one of the most common questions we get from new officiants, is what is a portfolio? What do I put in it? And where does it go? Which are really important questions, because that's how people are finding you and connecting with you. So we reached out to Sherri Crawford, who has a really extensive background in doing MC work, radio news personality, or news announcer, and also owns and operates Officiant Sherri, which is a professional wedding officiant business in North Carolina, serving, I think, North Carolina, South Carolina, all along the coast, doing all kinds of weddings. And I'll let her tell you more about that. So we're gonna hear from Sherri, and then we'll open it up to questions and see where it goes. So Sherri, it's all you.
Awesome. Thank you, Jessica. So first, I'm so excited to be a part of this, and I want to thank American Marriage Ministries for, creating this, and Jessica, of course, for reaching out. I think it's wonderful that there's a place now for, officiants to come together and learn from each other. And it's especially exciting because when I started doing this a few years ago, because it wasn't really the case. But on that note, the portfolio, as Jessica was saying, super important as far as kind of, getting your brand out there, the types of couples that you're, kind of looking to work with and connect with. And of course, that big question is, well, how do I even get this started? It can be a little intimidating, but don't let it scare you. As long as I think you want to put in the work and the effort, it might take some time, but, it's definitely worth doing, as in, anything that's worth building is going to take time, but it's definitely worth it. So on that note, one of the best places I think to start is maybe kind of creating an image and a brand on Instagram. That seems to be a place where a lot of couples do come. They're checking out, different vendors, different styles. They're getting ideas, especially sometimes I've noticed when I do, my initial kind of contact talk with a couple, they're saying to me, well, I've never done this before, so I don't even know where to start. I don't know what questions to ask. I don't know really what we're looking for. So of course they say a picture's worth 1,000 words. So that's why I think Instagram is so fantastic in connecting people and couples and vendors and all that good stuff. So of course, then the question is, well, if I'm newer to officiating, where am I going to get some content to put out there? And there's a couple of different ways to do that. You can start with getting some stock photos to put out there, just have something really, doesn't have to be, I don't think, over the top, but just something to kind of start establishing your footprint, so to speak. Whether, like I said, it's a stock photo and you're talking about maybe in the caption, a venue in the area, maybe it's a, different type of decor, even, doesn't have to necessarily be couples. It's a good place to start. And then, you can start building, networking with other folks on Instagram. And again, that's kind of a good starting point, I think. Another suggestion is if you've got some friends, maybe they recently got married or they just happen to still have, their wedding attire. It doesn't hurt to ask them, say, hey, you want to get together and, drinks or pizzas on me. All I need you to do is, pose for some photos. We'll do a mock ceremony. That's always an option as well. And I think then once you do get started, maybe you have a couple of weddings under your belt. If you don't have a professional photographer at the ceremony, which not everybody does, especially in, like elopements and smaller ceremonies like that, you can always ask the couple after the ceremony, hey, can we take a photo before I leave? And, ask them, of course, do you mind if I share it? Or you can always ask the couple for a photo as well. So again, just kind of another good starting point and something to build on, once you kind of get your feet on the ground and running, if that makes sense. So another option, and your website is often a big question. So another option is, you can showcase some of those photos on your website as well. And I think one of the big points that I like to kind of get across is, when you start your website, and this is just from experience, you don't have to go big or go home, if that makes sense. And I am going to try and share. Bear with me because I am not very tech savvy in this. Let's see if we can share. Is that working, Jessica? Okay, perfect. Okay. So for example, when I first started my website, I just had a simple page holder. I was in that mindset of, this is what I want to do, but I don't want to put in that much resources as far as money to get, this huge elaborate website. So I started out with a page holder, and then kind of from there added, just a few more pages. But again, I think as long as you start that presence online, then it lets couples know and reassures them, I'm professional, I'm dedicated to this. I'm not going to disappear in a week before, or before the wedding, something along those lines. So you can build trust. And then as far as photos on your website, again, if you don't have a whole bunch to choose from at the moment, I think you're good with going, with less is more. Back before digital, platforms and all that good stuff, which, kind of ages me a little bit. But when I started doing portfolios, that was kind of the thing, less is more. As a, freelance journalist and writer, you would put together a portfolio with, your 3 to 5 best articles or your 3 to 5 best photos, with the premise that, editors are busy people. They don't necessarily have all the time in the world, once you do your initial contact. So I think that kind of translates to, how couples are today when they're looking at vendors. There's so much out there. There's, different websites, there's different platforms. So maybe, start with that premise as in less is more. So you put maybe, 1 or 2 of your best photos up on your website, something that will showcase, the types of ceremonies that you're doing, the type that you're interested in. If you don't have photos of you in action at the moment, you can put some stock photos again up on your website. Again, just kind of showcasing what type of couples that you think you're best at serving, whether it's, same-sex couples, if you want to do smaller weddings, you want to do, the big, beautiful weddings, as long as you're kind of putting that out there in the photos that you're showcasing, then you're good to go because that's what you're going to attract. And then as far as, and Jessica, and I don't mean to keep asking you, did I successfully unshare my screen?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay. All right. Bear with me, everybody. 1 second. I'm looking for that nice little red button. There it is. Okay. Thank you for bearing with me. Oh, my goodness. See, this is why I'm so happy to have a co-host. Thank you, Jessica. Let me think. Okay, so we touched base on, getting started with your website, getting started with some content for your Instagram. Oh, another good tip for Instagram whenever you're starting out is you can get one of those reshare apps. I think Repost is probably one of the most popular ones. And that's a good way maybe to start establishing some relationships with other wedding professionals, in your area, or of course, across country, across the world, is resharing some of their content. So that helps you, of course, establish some relationships, but then it's also giving you some content to share, content to recycle when you don't necessarily have a whole bunch, of natural stuff to share on your own, if that makes sense. Once you do get started, though, I think with your Instagram and, other socials, whether it's Facebook, TikTok, hugely popular. I do have to say, I have not jumped into those waters yet, but it's definitely on my list of platforms to add. But of course, with Facebook, the great thing about that is once you get established there, you can start having reviews. You can send couples requests for reviews there. You can also request reviews to be posted if you do a Google business page. So with a Google business page, I have to actually say that is probably one of the best decisions that I made. And that was suggested by an officiant group that I had joined on Facebook. And I did that, and it's crazy. I don't know what changed about things, but I think what it was really is that couples were able to find me, because you can narrow it down to what region you're in, what services you offer. You can put in some keywords and that sort of thing. And then the other good thing, and I'm going to try and share that, is that you can share plenty of photos on your Google business page. And let me bring that up for everybody. Okay. So, for example, you've got so much more leeway as far as how many photos you kind of can put out there. You just post those from your app as you go. And again, it's a great way to give couples who might be shopping for officiants in your area a glimpse into the type of services that you offer, kind of your style and your vibe, which of course is hugely important in connecting with the couples that hire you. So again, thankfully in our area, we've got so many beautiful backgrounds. We've got beach, we've got beautiful downtown venues. But again, just more visual ways to connect with couples and hopefully attract the kind of couples that you want to work with. And in that, I did want to note, and this is a really great piece of advice that an officiant had shared online, and I don't remember where I had found it. And let me get out of that sharing. Was that you don't have to be necessarily in business for a long time to start attracting the type of couples that you want. And I was always under that impression that, you couldn't really put it out there to the universe what you wanted to attract as far as couples. I'm having trouble with that, sorry. Thinking that I've got to be in business for 10 years or something like that. But it ended up not being the case after I heard that little tidbit from this other officiant. And, and I think one of the ways that I was able to accomplish that was by putting out, content and photos on Google business pages. I think, well, I think as long as the photo is, good quality, as in, it's focused and not blurry. If you're comfortable with the photo, I think that's a good starting point, at least add one of those. So again, that kind of shows people that you're experienced, you've done this before. And then another suggestion, until you start getting some weddings with the professional photographers, asking the couple to pose with you. And I know that it's not really that photo of you in action, and the altar and the couple, but that might also be a good starting place as well until you're able to start building your portfolio. Yeah, definitely. Doing a lot of folks that I know have done the Google phone number. I believe there's also some apps that can kind of mask your phone number as well. And then of course, with the email address, you can make up really any Gmail. That's the beauty of Gmail. So you can be wedding minister extraordinaire at gmail.com. So I think that would be a great option too, is to go ahead and separate, your emails, if you haven't done that yet, into a separate, business account. And that helps you stay organized as well. In as far as other personal information, I don't think you really have to put, honestly, too much out there. I think as far as the email address, that's probably most important. And then again, if you don't want your phone number out there for everybody, definitely the Google would be the way to go. That's always a big question for folks too, is, you know, how much of my personality and personal self do I show, you know, because you want folks to know that you're a real person, you know, you're not, you know, just this worker and all that good stuff. So it can be kind of a fine line, I think. But that being said, it's what you're comfortable with. You know, I always kind of err on the professional side, but you know, my goofiness comes out too. So. Oh boy, I don't know if I'm the right person to ask that. I think it really comes down to just organizing yourself. You know, and I've done that often as far as kind of juggling a lot of different endeavors, so to speak. You know, for example, back when I was working, you know, a more 9-to-5 type job, you know, and I was still working as a photographer and a writer. Again, I think one of the best options that kept me sane was having that separate email, so you can kind of keep, you know, that gig separate from the day gig, you know, and remembering to carve out some time for yourself so that you know, can give your all in either situation, you know, whether it's your day job, whether you're officiating for couples, you know, and it's funny because I say that, and I have to be honest, I'm probably not the best person at taking the advice that I give on that aspect. I'm glad you asked that, and that's a huge question that was always at the top of my mind when I first started doing this. I think as far as, you know, putting pricing out there, it's a very good way to kind of you know, to give couples more information. So, you know, then they're prompted to, you know, go ahead and contact you. They'll know whether or not you're within their budget or not. Then there's some areas like, for example, where I'm at, where things are a little bit more fluid, which is why, for example, I don't have pricing listed directly on my website, because we, you know, have so many just fluctuations as far as, you know, time of year. Some folks want sunsets and all that kind of stuff. So pricing is a little bit different. And then to answer your question about how much to charge, that one's always a tough one to answer because, you know, markets are so different. So I think one of the best ways that you can kind of get an idea of what to charge is, you know, check out officiant websites for folks in your area and similar markets, and, you know, kind of see what they're offering. You can, you know, even reach out if anybody is, you know, willing to kind of chat with you on that subject, or maybe some area planners. But I think, yeah, just kind of doing the research on your market is usually the best way to start your pricing. And it can always change, you know, especially once you get more comfortable, get more experienced, and then you'll, you know, then it'll come like second nature. No, it's easy peasy, and it doesn't cost you a thing other than the time that you put into it. You know, as far as, you know, some of the platforms like Thumbtack, Wedding Wire, I'm actually, and I'm probably very much in the minority on this, but I'm not on those. And it's because, like, I didn't want to spend the money when I first started out. You know, I have no other, you know, excuse other than that. You know, when I hopped on to do the free Wedding Wire account, I think it was when them and the Knot had just merged. So they stopped doing, you know, new free accounts, and, you know, they called and they wanted to, you know, sell me the package. And, you know, at the time it wasn't something that was feasible for my business. But, you know, obviously there's tons of vendors on there. It works. It definitely works. But what I like about the Google business page is that, you know, pretty much Google is the first place that everybody seems to go to. You know, you just type in officiants in Wilmington and you'll see several of us pop up. And then folks are like, oh, well, you know, it's kind of a one-stop shop. They can just go over there and see, you know, several of your photos, which again, don't cost a thing to host or post. They can also, you can link your website so they can just hop on over to the website, fill out your contact form. And then you can also, the neat thing about Google Pages too, is that you can post updates. So for example, when spring wedding season comes up, you can just post, maybe you're running a special, maybe you just want to say, hey, it's, spring, winter, or whatever, fall wedding season, and, post some pictures, and it just somehow goes out into Google and the universe and does its thing. And it's just amazing. And it's funny because I felt weird asking for reviews. I was like, that's so inappropriate. Like, but I started, just kind of doing it in follow-up emails, because after all the excitement and, there might be a honeymoon, I'll give it a couple of weeks with all my couples, but then I'll send them, just a follow-up thank you, and, just wish them well and kind of update them in the email, what's going on with the license, because most, like, for example, here in North Carolina, it has to be returned within 10 days. So I assure them license has been in the mail, or I dropped it off at, the Register of Deeds. And then, if I'm happy with the service that I provided, especially, if it feels really good to me, then I don't feel weird asking for a review. And I'll, kind of put in my closing, just say, hey, if you would like to leave a review, I'll put a link. If it's something you'd like to do, I'd appreciate it. Here's the links. They can be left anytime. And then just kind of leave it at that. So you just kind of throw it out there.